Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships, where today we're going to have a battle here on the Atlantic in the domination mode, where I'm divisioned up with good friend and clanmate, Forgotten Void. Also has a YouTube channel, focuses a lot on operations. Highly recommend you check him out. But today we're going to be posing the question of, is the Ragnar worth it? Which is completely subjective and being up to you. So I'm going to talk about this ship because as we come to the end of this month in November, I believe it's on NA, I think it's the end of this month, the coupon will reset in the armory where you get 25% off a coal or steel ship as an example. So Ragnar full price is 27,000 steel. So quite the investment, but with the 25% off coupon, you can get her down to 20,250 steel, if I recall correctly. So if you get the ship, not only are you getting a tier 10 gunboat destroyer, European destroyer, you're going to be getting three skill points and a port slot naturally. And they note that the key features of this ship would be the high main battery firing accuracy and armor penetration capabilities. Repair party consumable available, and then the surveillance radar consumable, but you do not get a smoke and you have no torpedoes. So in World of Warships, you have three types of destroyers. You have gunboat destroyers, you have hybrid destroyers, and torpedo destroyers, hybrid being a mix of both. And Ragnar is hardcore gunboat destroyer because she gets absolutely no torpedo armament whatsoever. What the ship does get is 452mm guns. That are quite nice. These, when you compare her to other tier 10 ships, she ties with the Elbing in, if I'm pronouncing this right, the Lübeck, for being the most accurate destroyers in the game. So she gets the 2.0 Sigma and vertical dispersion 33 meters, horizontal dispersion 57 meters when looking at the ship tools and comparing her to other ships here in the game. So if you want an accurate destroyer, Ragnar for this deal. So you'll definitely be getting a really good gunboat destroyer that boasts a lot of capability with these 452mm guns. Their high explosive shells have an 11% chance of starting fire. They penetrate 30mm, and then the AP does a max damage of 3,000 with 900 meters a second shell velocity on both high explosive and armor piercing. And the other thing that you're seeing on the screen now, as I'm going to switch back to high explosive here, is the radar that you get with the Ragnar. So I think I've done the full radar build with having the radar, surveillance radar in slot 2. So I think we are running a 36-second radar time, which is quite trollish with the Ragnar and comes in really handy. What this destroyer does really well, as I'm going to regret using the engine boost here, it wasn't necessary, it wasn't needed, as we go ahead and pick up the kill there. But what this destroyer boasts and doing really well is two things, I would say. One is, in terms of her play style, is really being a bully to other enemy destroyers. She kind of does what Smaller does, but their play styles are slightly different, but it's kind of similar concepts, where you can bully key objectives such as capture zones, right? So, you know, not only did we bully the Hate, we also killed him, right, with the help of some of our teammates. So then now there's no destroyer up here at Charlie Cap to contest us, which is great. And then the other thing she does really well is farming at range with her main battery gun. So her gun range, if you take the fourth skill point, the main battery and AA expert, which puts plus 20% on her main battery firing range, is 15.6 kilometers. So I do that rather than taking the artillery plotting room, or sorry, the gunfire control system mod 2 in the 6th slot, because I do the main battery mod 3 to get a faster reload time, which right now gives us a reload time of 3 seconds with these guns. And that's before you maybe take something like Adrenaline Rush or Fearless Brawler, which would shave 10% off, so it'd take 0.3 seconds. Yeah, if I just did the math right in my head. So I almost have a 21-point build, but not quite yet. So that's the playstyle. It's firing at range, which we're going to do on the Thunder here as we move over to Bravo Cap, because there's so many of us as a team here at Charlie Cap. We don't need to hang around here, but as we're moving towards B, we can kind of farm these two, the Thunder and the Buffalo at range. In terms of her consumables, so she's very capable when it comes to consumables. So she gets a standard damage control party, so a 40-second cooldown time, as we kind of just stopped right into that. That was dumb of me. Then she gets her repair party, which has an 80-second cooldown time, action time of 14 seconds. You would heal back plus 4,200 max HP per heal. But if you take the India Delta, you can bump that up to over 5,000. Then she gets her radar, which is, it's a 7.5 kilometer radar. And when you do a full conceal build, which is what I have here on the Ragnar, it's 7.5. So you match your radar matches your conceal. And then when you do the radar build, like I said, it's at the 36-second action time, so you can be quite trollish, which you're going to see how handy that comes for us in this game. And then you get the emergency engine power, so it's a plus 30% engine boost, but it only lasts for a minute and has a 180-second cooldown time. And one of the things they kind of did to offset this very strong utility set of consumables on the Ragnar is that they took away how many consumables you get. So if you don't take Superintendent, you only get 2 heals, 2 radars, and 2 engine boosts. So Superintendent is pretty mandatory to run here on the Ragnar to get the most out of the ship. So that's the playstyle. Bully out enemy destroyers, take key objective areas, and then farm at long range. So let me phrase it this way. If you are considering making a steel investment on the Ragnar, you're like, I don't know. You know, the first question is, do you like playing gunboat destroyers? If you like playing gunboat destroyers, then I would say you'd very much like playing Ragnar. And if you're like, well, Flimsy, how do I get a better feel if I'm not sure? Maybe I've not fully played a gunboat destroyers and I'm trying to figure it out. Where there's a few options in terms of, like, let's say as an example, the tech tree. Because I'm trying to think of something that plays similar to Ragnar. You know, you could say the Elbing, a tech tree, tier 10 German destroyer, more like a cruiser. That would give you a good feel. I mean, that one is a little bit maybe more kind if you're newer to the gunboat scene, because you actually get smoke screens with Elbing, and you still get torpedoes with Elbing, but her guns is where Elbing shines the best. And then also you could play, you could get Friesland. I think Friesland was for free XP back in the day, but now you have her counterpart, which is the Groningen. And how do you get Groningen? Or can you get her for free XP? Yeah. Oh, sorry, not free XP. Coal, 228,000 coal. But that requires a coal investment, right? Otherwise, you know, probably something like Kleber, and that could be another somewhat similar, but still not quite the same. I think Elbing and Groningen or Friesland are the ships that play closest to the playstyle of Ragnar, so to speak. Definitely the Friesland or Groningen, much more so, those being tier 9 destroyers. They don't have hydro and don't have heals, but they have defensive AA and 5 kilometer hydro range. So you can see us again using our radar. It's still going as we're definitely torturing the Shimakaze. I went ahead and used my emergency engine power here for the engine boost, because I wanted to make it a lot more difficult. One, for the Shima to probably land any torpedoes on us, as we could just completely outran them. But then also that you have the enemy team pushing up from A to B. So usually what happens on this map is typically, it can happen one way or the other, or both, where maybe one team wins the flank and then they start pushing in, collapsing. Or you can have, like in our case, we've won the north flank, but the enemy team has won the southern flank. And the reason why I even took Ragnar out in this game was because I was kind of I had a couple random game losses, and Ragnar is a pretty strong destroyer ship for me to play. So I was like, I'm going to take Ragnar out because I'm tired of losing. Foreshadowing. But we're still going to have a good game where our team just is kind of struggling getting the kills, so to speak. We've done 3 kills. There's 2 mainly on the destroyers, so not a lot of hit points there. So 3 kills as a whole, and 2 solo caps thus far. So this is, now that we've eliminated the enemy destroyers, there's still a submarine running around. Now you're going to see us kind of evolve more into the gunboat at range. So you've seen the play style of contesting, taking the caps, bullying out the enemy destroyers, classic Ragnar move. And now we're moving into the other classic playstyle of Ragnar, and that's just farming enemy ships at range, which is what we're going to do here between our high explosive and our armor piercing. So we want to be able to set fires. If we get decent broadside, like here you see me switching to the armor piercing, and you can see some examples of shooting a broadside Jean Bar here, where he's almost full broadside to us, not fully. I'm trying to get a little bit more on his side, and we also want to open up the range here, because honestly, I'm closer than what I think ideal would be before I start opening up. Ragnar is a pretty, we talk about her weaknesses as an example. I mean, she's not the most agile destroyer because she's quite large. Actually, what is even her rudder shift time? It's the 5th worst in the game, 5.6 seconds. I mean, Havarask, of course, is number 1 in that regard. So if you don't have your engine, emergency engine power, like we used earlier against the Shimakaze, when we're this close going up against the Jean Bar, because we're a relatively large-sized destroyer with 30,000 hit points, you can definitely expect to take some punishment, which has certainly happened when we opened up on the enemy Jean Bar under that 10 kilometer. Like, really, it helps with Ragnar to get out to like 12 kilometers, 11, 12 kilometers. 12, 15 kilometers is like, I say that's mid-range in the game, but really that's a long range for a destroyer, right? That's where it's more easier to be able to more avoid those enemy salvos, especially from enemy battleships, and that the French battleships in particular have a decent shell velocity as well. So we want to be able to get resets, which we have. We've gotten 7 so far, but our team is continuing to die to the north, so we need to get back in here. And so I'm kind of weighing the options here. I'm looking, and even if I would have opened up immediately, we wouldn't have been able to reset the encounter in time. So Void and I have just been working in tandem here. His airstrikes are going to become in handy, which, as annoying as it is when you're going up against a Trump and get repeatedly dropped, him and I are just going to be working our main battery guns here. So you can see me slowing down, I'm accelerating. I want to be able to, I don't want to poke the encounter too much with his 2 and 3 millimeter guns. You know, a Massachusetts, I'm not worried about because it's a battleship with 9.46s that is equivalently shooting a shotgun at long range. But we do want to keep helping out our team with the encounter. And when we're using the high explosive, right, as I said, we pin 30 millimeter with this, which is quite helpful. And I do want to speak, I'll put it maybe in the top left corner here, and talking about the other strength of Ragnar is her armor scheme, which she gets, was it 25 millimeter? I just completely spaced that. I'm now gonna have to look it up because I don't want to tell you guys wrong when I'm doing a video on it. 25 millimeter armor side plating. So there's only a few destroyers in the game with high explosive that can pin that. That would be like Z52 and Elbing high explosive. Otherwise, you'd have to fire armor piercing, and then if you go to angle, then armor piercing is just going to bounce. So that makes Ragnar quite a bully when you're going up against other enemy destroyers, because essentially they have to if you're angled and they need to use high explosive, they have to, or even broadside and they use high explosive, they have to shoot your bow or stern, which is 19 millimeter. So most destroyers pin 20 to 21 millimeter with their high explosive in the game as a whole. So now this is where we need to actually get outside of the Massachusetts 11.3 kilometer secondary range. So if I had been a little bit more mindful, because I didn't want to like run away from the other Massachusetts, because I've been focused on getting the kill and we get the Kraken unleashed, because we definitely need to get that Massachusetts killed. So then now I can begin to re-accelerate again, and I'm wanting to get outside the secondary range of that other Massachusetts black, so that we can get him down. So I'm talking with Void, because we're needing the kills really bad. He stayed out here assisting and helping, but we've already communicated now that he's going to move towards Alpha Cap and cap it, because we need to stem off the points that we're bleeding. And once they flip C, which they're doing now, it's going to make it a lot more difficult to take it back. But what these, at least in terms of what these Massachusetts, or this one, has been doing, is as he pushes us and we try to stay outside of his gun range, or secondary range, excuse me, it pushes me, per se, further and further away from the key objective areas, particularly Bravo Cap, because if we're going to push back into B and take it, then we need to kill the Massachusetts first, and still no idea what that other enemy submarine is. So far, I think this is kind of showcasing the playstyles of Ragnar quite well. The two primary playing styles of just be a bully, take the key objective areas and killing enemy destroyers, and then the long-range gameplay. Things I don't like about the Ragnar. It's hard for me to find things I don't necessarily like about the ship, and I keep slowing down and eating these salvos. That's just me being a bad player. I've eaten 2 battleship salvos that have been unnecessary now, so sucks for me. I mean, the size will get you, but I mean, that's kind of the cost of playing a gunboat destroyer. Typically, gunboat destroyers are larger in size, so I mean, that's very hard for me to speak ill of, because those are the trade-offs. But the thing I think I don't like most about the Ragnar is probably her ASW, anti-submarine warfare, because they're forward-launching depth charges, and now we're getting the coordinated attack, as we already have the general offensive. So because you're kind of this large destroyer, and then your typical for the European destroyers is that your ASW is forward launching, kind of makes it a pain to deal with enemy submarines. So that's probably what I like least about the ship. I mean, other than that, I mean, her main battery is good. She's got great armor. You can be really trollish against enemy destroyers. You can kite out at range and put these 452mm guns to work. She has pretty strong AA. Actually, let's see what her AA strength is compared to other destroyers in the game. Yeah, number 1 among all tier 10 destroyers, followed by Småland and Holland, in second and third. I think when I looked at the AA rating, I don't know if that was with the AA combat signal, it was 94 out of 100 in the game. So I'm pinging where the destroyer is. I think the submarine's gone up to C, because the Libertad is down here in Bravo. So the AA is really strong. It's very helpful in dealing with enemy CV planes naturally. You don't get the defensive AA, but what AA damage you push out is strong. And it's also that it's a 6.9 kilometer AA range, so you have 0.9 kilometers in addition compared to something like the Småland or a Holland. So that's nice as a whole to be able to have here. And then, you know, the repair party, the emergency engine power. I mean, I would probably, I mean, me personally, I'd be fine with a 20% engine boost, so then I'd have the engine boost for longer duration. But I mean, they have to balance the ship in certain ways, otherwise it just kind of becomes too powerful as a whole. So if you like playing gunboat destroyers in warships, then I would say it's going to be very easy for you to like the Ragnar, because there's very little to dislike about the ship. Yes, she's large. Yes, her ASW is forward firing. But other than that, I've always had really enjoyable games. I mean, this is still a really enjoyable game, even though we're about to lose as enemy team reaches 1,000 hit points, as Void got a Witherer as well and a Trump, so... But we fear the Libertad secondaries because they hit pretty hard, and we're going to get really close to actually dying here. But the ironic thing what I like about Kid and the Ragnar, because you get the repair parties on them, is we're actually going to pick up a Dreadnought. A Dreadnought and a Destroyer. So as I said, you know, it wasn't like we did a massive amount of damage. Our team was just having difficulty finishing off the kills, which ultimately harmed us. And long term, all said and done, with 101,000 damage and almost 1 million credits earned with the General Offensive Dreadnought, Kraken Unleash in coordinated attack with some defended ribbons and solo caps. And so with Void, we got 7 kills in total, so we killed over half the enemy team. And look at our submarine. Submarines get a built-in base XP multiplier, and he still bottomed the team. Oof, that's rough. So yeah, so 1620 and 1,140 for Void. We took 1.7 million potential damage. Damage received, we took 43,000 damage as a whole. So we pushed the repair parties, the healing capacity of Ragnar quite strong. I mean, you can't say that about many destroyers in the game because they just simply don't get the repair party. So Ragnar's a little forgiving in that regard compared to Elbing, which doesn't get a repair party. So so I think Ragnar is just a really nice, good classic, strong tier 10 gunboat destroyer in the game. So if you like gunboat destroyers or you haven't tried it out yet, you know, I think Ragnar is a phenomenal destroyer to pick up for the steel. And then, you know, if you're just trying to get a feel for gunboat destroyers and it's new to you, then I'd say if you got the coal, pick up Groningen, because it plays very similar to Ragnar. Otherwise, for tech tree ships where you don't have to spend any like coal resources, then Elbing is going to be your next big pick, because you primarily fire armor piercing with Elbing, where Ragnar is both the armor piercing and high explosive, and kind of bounce back and forth between them. But very accurate destroyer with excellent main battery guns. So you know, ships in the game are typically make and break regarding their main battery, unless they get some other type of gimmicks like strong secondaries or funny buttons or whatever. So that being said, I hope you liked today's video. If you did, give a thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. Until next time, take care.